Can you hear me okay on this audio? I hope the small mic is working just fine. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sheridan, and if you are new here, I tend to make content that surrounds what I like to call being a new adult. So anything from lifestyle to agriculture to budgeting and just kind of navigating life, you know? That's just how it is. We're all just trying to figure things out. So if you have stumbled across this video, if you searched for it, whether you subscribe to me or whatever, this video is going to be a little different than what I typically upload on this channel. I launched a podcast on February 17th, and instead of just telling you about it, I thought that I would do a video completely surrounding the podcast, talking about why I launched it, the idea behind it, the research I did, and things like that. When I was putting together this video idea, I anticipated that I would actually just make a vlog about it, not an actual sit down video like this. So I'm going to be including some vlog footage that I captured on the day of launch and also the week after for the second episode that went live, and sharing that footage with you, and then just talking about, again, why I decided to launch a podcast. So let's jump back to February 17th.
Good morning, happy Monday. Let me use my head to block the sun for you this morning. So it is Monday at 9:15 a.m. in the morning. I thought the dog was trying to escape from the door. This week has so much in store, I don't even know what to say. But for this vlog in particular that you're watching right now, we are focusing on all things podcast. That's right. Today, Monday, February 17th, also President's Day, is the day that my pilot episode of the Sustainable Cow podcast goes live. It is, like I said, it's currently 9:15. The podcast launches at 3 p.m. my time, so Pacific Standard Time. And I have a few things to do before it goes live, so I wanted to talk to you in this vlog about the things that I did to prepare for this launch, kind of, the research, and honestly, for all the social platforms I've done, I've been pretty minimal when it comes to planning, and I felt like I planned a little tiny bit more for this, but honestly, I just picked a host person and went with it. I went with Anchor as a host. I honestly hadn't done that much research, but I've heard a lot of different podcasters use it, especially when they're first starting, so hopefully that was a good choice. So far it seems like it is, but there's also the potential that in the future they might come back and be like, well, we own the podcast because we host it, because I know sometimes that is a legal concern when you have a host. But I was in no place to build a website or anything for a hosting platform for myself. That just wasn't in the cards for me right now. So I went and used Anchor, and I have it pre-scheduled, which is super awesome. But this morning, what I really need to work on after I get some breakfast in my belly is I really seriously need to put together some show notes to put onto my blog. So that's something that I'll be adding to my blog, which is really good because I actually need to update my blog site because I'm no longer posting things about college, so I need to get rid of that tab, and I'm going to replace that tab with podcast show notes because that's a really good way to get some traffic to your blog and also to your podcast, so I'm going to utilize that.
So I talked a lot about just, that I just did it. I just decided, I may not have as much research or knowledge on how to host, or if going through a free hosting platform like an app like Anchor is really the best for my long-term goal with the podcast. But I just decided that I wanted to start because this idea had been in the back of my head for legitimately 3 years. 3 whole years, I was like, man, I should really start this podcast. I have this idea, I know what I want to talk about, but I kept coming up with excuses that I wasn't qualified. No one would really want to listen to me. I decided just to go with Anchor because I had heard, honestly, sponsored ads from other podcasters that I listened to, specifically within the agriculture genre. And it just was so easy to start that I was like, why would I not just utilize it? So that's what I did. And when I went to film the first episode, I knew that I wanted it to be just like the general introduction. I had planned out a tiny bit of like the first few episodes, but as much as I wanted to have things pre-recorded, it didn't happen that way, and I'm kind of glad it didn't, because I think once I launched that first episode, I got a feel for what it was like to record and produce, put out the show notes, all of those things, and I realized it takes way more time than I originally thought. And if you go to Pinterest and read all the blogs and just like infographics about starting a podcast, some of them do mention that it is a pretty serious time commitment. But I didn't really take that seriously because I've done YouTube, I have a blog, you know, I'm trying to grow my Instagram audience. I understand how much of an investment it is to put time into social media. Like, I got that part. But I didn't realize how long it would actually take to record, to edit the recording, to put it into the app, to promote it, to make the show notes for the blog. There's a lot that goes into it to be successful. And obviously, I'm not seeing like amazing growth right away. This week that I'm uploading this video was the 3rd week of the podcast, so it's still really new. And my average play rate, I guess, on each episode is like less than 10. That's okay. I'm just happy that someone is listening, and I'm starting, you know, to gain momentum and traction on how I want to speak and the phrases that I want to like make a part of the brand for the podcast, because branding is a huge deal. You also know that if you are involved with any sort of social media platform and growing an audience, you have to have a specific brand that represents you or your company or the product, whatever it is that you are promoting. There's a brand that goes around it. So the podcast brand was, you know, had the foundation, but as I continue to record episodes and talk and just rant, the brand is starting to come to life a little bit more for me now. So I'm able to post on Instagram, and at first I was just posting like general infographics or quotes, which I'm still going to utilize, but now I'm feeling more confident that I can post actual photos of myself on the podcast Instagram account to bring more of that brand feeling. And I'm still keeping within the same voice and the representation I want to have, but I'm also bringing that personal element to say this is the person that you're listening to every single week. So that was a really big element for me that I had sort of mapped out before I launched the first episode, but truthfully, I feel like that brand is now coming to life more as the podcast has actually been launched.
Hey guys, it's now 11:30. Yes, I'm in the same spot. The sun has shifted. My coffee is cold, but things are happening. I just finished up the show notes on my blog site, and I've added a new tab. So this is the Cattle and Coffee blog, and here is the post that's going to be going live. Actually, I made the blog post live so I could get the links and everything. So this will be kind of the introduction to the podcast on the blog. It has a little bit of a show note section, but ultimately it's just kind of saying, hey, I'm launching a podcast. So there's that. It's gonna be simple, but I'm getting ready to go over to my Facebook page and schedule out the podcast promo for this evening. So the podcast goes live at 3 p.m. through Anchor. So I'm going to use my blog to promo it though, because more of my followers are familiar with my blog content than they are, you know, an Anchor.fm link. So instead of doing a direct link, I'm going to pre-schedule for this afternoon a promo post about that. So that's what I'm getting ready to do.
So when we get into the 2nd week of podcasting, I have gotten into this habit now that I'm utilizing my work schedule to use Mondays and Tuesdays as my social media days primarily. And now my schedule's changing again at my current part-time job. And I'm also still hunting for a full-time job. So I know that my schedule is going to change yet again, and I'm going to have to get into another flow routine of things. So one of the biggest things that I personally know that I need to utilize more, but I also want to share with you, is honestly the absolute necessity to pre-record and pre-plan your episodes. So when I did episode 2, I recorded it Monday. All the podcasts are going live on Tuesday. So luckily I was able to record, edit, do all the production stuff on Monday and get it pre-scheduled. But then on Tuesday, I went back and did the show notes to go on the blog. I don't want to do it that way. I want to have everything pre-scheduled, from the blog notes to the Pinterest graphic, promotion, all of those things I want to be pre-scheduled. So as I kind of am learning this flow of how I'm going to really make sure to stay consistent with this podcast. If you have been around me since I started YouTube, you'll know that I'm not always very thorough with my consistency online. I go through spurts where I'm really, really good and I post every single week, and I post 3 times a week on Instagram. And then I go through spurts where I don't post for a month on Instagram, and I don't even make a YouTube video for 3 months. And when I knew when I launched this podcast that it couldn't be that way. If I wanted this to be taken seriously and to gain traction and gain an audience, that I could not be lackadaisical about this upload schedule. I had to stick to it. I have to look at it as a part-time job, really. So I know that my schedule is going to change again, and I'm going to have to find a better flow, and I absolutely need to utilize my time to pre-record episodes, pre-schedule all of these things. So like I'm doing today with YouTube, I'm actually planning to record 2 separate videos, and that's not something that I've utilized in the past, but I don't know why. Because if you can make time to do multiple projects, film a bunch of things in one day, and then 2 days later you can go back and edit a couple of those projects and get those ready to go live, then you are set for a couple weeks. So then you have leeway there. If you have a really off week and you don't feel like being in front of the camera, well, you already have your content scheduled, so you can have a buffer week there. It's really nice. The same goes for podcasting. And for some reason, even I guess it's just because it's the beginning of a project, you're really motivated and excited to see where it goes. I feel like I'm getting into the really good routine right off the bat. I wish that would have happened with YouTube and my blog and all of the other avenues of social media that I have explored, and I'm trying to continue to do well with. The podcast just seemed different to me. I think it's because this is really the first project that is solely focused on the agricultural side of my life. Yes, I still talk about personal experience in life and how it connects as just human beings in the podcast, but everything in each episode connects back to agriculture in some form. And so I think that I am embracing it so much better than I have in YouTube and other things, because this project, this passion project, if you want to call it, actually feels like a really solid start for what I'm actually trying to go toward, what I've been trying to go toward since I started YouTube, sharing my life, but also sharing the story of agriculture. So it's been extremely rewarding, even though I'm only 3 weeks in, that I'm getting into this routine. I'm feeling really confident about having these conversations, whether people are listening or not. Sometimes when I go back and I'm listening as I edit and stuff, I'm just wow, that's a really good point. And it's a strange thing, because I feel like I am actually gaining confidence and I'm being more proud of myself, because I'm listening back to the way that I think and the way I'm talking and representing myself in the industry, and I'm starting to actually feel like my voice has relevance to the industry that I care so much about. There are still moments where I'm man, this doesn't connect to ag as much as I wish it would. If an industry professional listened to this, would they actually think it was relevant to the industry as a whole, or even a small sector of the industry? And as I continue making episodes, it's going to get better. That's the thing. I can evolve and grow with the podcast just as much as I can evolve and grow with YouTube or Instagram or my blog. Definitely recommend doing some pre-planning and pre-recording, even though this whole flow that I have going on right now is working for me, I know it's not going to work forever. So I have to keep that in mind and be proactive instead of feeling really overwhelmed when I get to the point that I'm like, I don't have time to record this week, but I have to have an episode live by 3 p.m. on Tuesday. You know, you have to plan ahead and realize that if it's something you really care about and it's something you want to see succeed, for whether your version of succeeding is like growing a huge audience or just being consistent and having your opinions out there for people to find if they want to, depends on what way you want to define success. But you have to do a little bit of pre-planning, and luckily it's worked out for me so far. But I know as I move forward with the podcast, I'm going to have to be a little more aware of the way I'm planning and getting things accomplished for each episode.
It's officially been 1 whole week since I have launched the first episode of the Sustainable Cow podcast. Within that first week, I only got 9 views, but that to me is a decent amount for just an episode that's introductory. So this week, the episode that is going live in literally 8 minutes is called Defining Sustainability in Agriculture and Life. So this one has a lot more substance. It's kind of starting to dive into those conversations that I'm looking to have throughout the podcast. So I wanted to show you another round of launching an episode, because the first one, like I said, is just like that introductory. So this is more starting really to get into the nitty-gritty of having a substantial post go live. So there's a few things that I've already done, similar to last week, that are waiting to be scheduled. So the first one being the podcast episode itself. So I pre-scheduled that episode. Unfortunately, I just recorded the episode yesterday, but I was still able to get it recorded, edited, and put together and pre-scheduled to go live at 3 p.m. today. So this one is 27 minutes and 38 seconds long. Still a little bit shorter than I anticipated, but to be honest, I probably could have done a little more research and planning. I'm still kind of learning how to plan a podcast episode, because I've only ever really planned YouTube or like visual videos before. And while it's similar in a lot of ways, there's also aspects that you don't have to plan in a video. You're not getting shots or different, staging set up. You're just talking. So it's a little different. You're able to do 5 tags on the Anchor app. So these are the ones that I chose for this specific episode. Lifestyle, sustainability, agriculture, sustainable living, and regenerative farming. So I haven't really dove into the analytical side yet of the podcast, because I don't have enough viewership yet to really kind of analyze what people are looking for. So this is just like a general tag, the way I would generally tag something, in hopes of people searching for those keywords. This episode also is different than my first one, because I did decide to include a sponsored segment through Anchor, and it's just for Anchor, the app itself. So when you put your episodes together on Anchor, this is kind of what it looks like behind the scenes. You can see you upload, for me, I upload from my computer onto anchor.fm, and then go into my phone to add and change anything I think I need to, like adding the tags and things. That was easier to do on my phone than on the browser for some reason. But this, as you can see, I have 3 segments that are being posted to make the whole episode. So the first, when I was recording this time, I knew that I wanted to have a sponsor segment in the middle. So for the first half, I recorded on GarageBand, using Apple products here, because I have a Mac. So I was using GarageBand for Mac, and I knew in my head that I wanted to have a sponsored segment. So when I was recording, I put in like an actual break, and then exported like part 1 and exported part 2. Those were the ways that I was going to break up the episode to add the sponsor segment. And then I recorded the ad for Anchor and uploaded it to this. So it's broken down into 3 segments on my end, but when it plays, it just goes through flawlessly. So these are just things that I've already picked up on within 1 week of production. And I did do a blog post also to be scheduled, and this time, since again this episode has much more substance, in my show notes I actually decided to include 2 new segments, actually 3 new sections on this blog post, highlighting quotes that I thought were that stood out from the episode, resources at the end, since I did reference textbook definitions from Merriam-Webster dictionary, and also a section of like what to think about from the episode to kind of reflect on as well. So I thought that is worth mentioning to show you like how it's evolving already just between 2 episodes.
Okay guys, hopefully you enjoyed kind of seeing a little bit of the weird behind the scenes vlogging portion, and if you enjoyed watching me in that element, then I would highly recommend going to my vlog channel, because you'll see a lot more of my day-to-day life on that channel than what you see here on the main channel. And once again, I've made a comeback. Here I am uploading again on the Sheridan Ann channel. So I am really happy about that, and I actually have lots of ideas backed up to be recorded and published for you all to watch. So I have literally the next 3 weeks planned out on what videos are going to be going live. So make sure you subscribe if you want to see more of me, and ring the notification bell so you don't forget about me either. Remember to moo loudly at cows. I can't wait to see you all in my next video, and make sure to hit up the podcast, The Sustainable Cow, on Spotify or Anchor. Okay, I will see you all next Wednesday.